we're going to kind of let it get started here because there's kind of a lag between, I think, us starting and seeing you. But
yeah.
So I'll say hello again. Hello, Soulfire. We're so glad to be here tonight talking about myths and misconceptions. For those of you who are new to this group, I'm Jessica.
And I'm Molly. We're so glad that you're here with us tonight. We're excited to be here and to talk about this topic with you guys.
Yes, and so Molly, let's be honest, Molly made such a fantastic list of myths and misconceptions, and I sent her a couple. And so I want to share my gratitude on that. Molly is fantastic. And we want your questions too. So go ahead and shoot some things that you feel like are myths and misconceptions, but please let us know where you're from. Let us know whatever you want to share. We're willing to hear from you as you are hearing from us. Okay.
I am sharing this.
Yes, me too. Thank you guys for being patient. Hop on, say hello, and we'll be sharing.
All right. So there is that. All right. Housekeeping done.
Yes. Here we go. And I am ready. Okay, let me turn down this volume. Thanks for being patient with me, you guys. Getting with the questions here. Okay. So myths and misconceptions. This is such a great topic. Let me just say that there are so many myths and misconceptions we come across that I'm still, I feel like it's the same thing over and over, but there are so many. Does that make sense? Like, it was hard for me to make a long list because they feel very similar in ways. So
yeah, and I think there's as we continue to do these episodes, we're obviously going to overlap some of the stuff that we have talked about before in other contexts. So it will be we'll be reintroducing some similar points perhaps, but focusing on the misconception aspect of it. So hopefully, even if you've heard this stuff before, we'll be presenting it in a fresh enough way that it'll still be interesting to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the biggest ones for me, and Molly, I know you have a ton, but I know for me, the biggest one is that I'm reading you all the time.
Oh my gosh. I don't know how many times, before I realized that I was a medium, I was really nervous being around mediums because I thought they were going to know something about me. They were going to be able to peer into the deep, dark nooks and crannies where all of my dirty little secrets were kept and just know something about me. And still to this day, now that I'm practicing medium, people are nervous around me.
Yeah.
And so it's, I think that, both of us are mediums and empaths. So certainly the potential is there for us to be reading some kind of information from people all the time. But, one of the things that we have talked about in the past is the ethics behind that. And that's just something that you don't do for many reasons, including, if you start playing dirty in the energy work world, things start to go a little sour for you on your ability to read and what you come in contact with. So
yeah, I feel like there's a difference in like walking into a room and assessing the energy than zoning in and being like, let me see what Molly's got going on. Like, I don't, when we connect, I don't automatically read, but I can feel like naturally, I can feel like, oh, she's vibing well today, or oh, she seems like, but I'm not going to dig.
Right.
It's something that I'm aware of, but I'm not going to dig in and be like, well, I need to know what's going on so I can give her this information, and I don't feel that necessary. So for me, that's my ethical, like, okay, I'm aware of this, but this isn't mine to check into unless she says, please help me.
Right. Absolutely. It's a permission thing. I think, that's one of the things that, we did a lot of development work together. And I think, we shared some teachers, and that was one of the things that was covered really early on, was that you don't read any, there's, like you said, there, you come into an awareness, like a general overall how this person is doing, but you don't read without permission.
Right. And I was just thinking that when I work with my students, and I say that loosely because we are all learning together all the time. We're constantly growing. And I tell them, you can read me as practice. Like, I do open that door for my students that are in my development group and are taking, my mediumship course. I do allow that, but I feel like it's important to ask, well, what's your most common myth?
Oh goodness. I think that's definitely a big one. And I think there's this common misconception too about the kind of information that we have access to. Like, we're going to be able to read thoughts, or like I said, get down into those dirty, dark little nooks and crannies into stuff that people don't want us to know about them. So I think that's definitely a big one. Looking over my list here, there's so many.
Yeah, it's like, where do we start?
I think one of the ones that jumped out at me when I was compiling this list was the thought that, when we are out in public, that, kind of the Teresa Caputo effect, call it that, that when
Yeah.
we're out in public, we're being bombarded and therefore feel called upon to, run up to perfect strangers and deliver information and do readings on the spot. And I think that is depending on, because we've talked about this before, everybody works a little bit differently. So depending on how people's gifts and energy work, they may be open to that kind of information coming in if they leave that door open, if they don't establish that boundary, which is something, especially being an empath, because it led me to a lot of really significant social anxiety. I had to put that veil, I had to put that veil over. I had to put that boundary in place so that I wasn't constantly being bombarded with information. So I was able to be out in the public sphere a little more peacefully.
Yeah. That's a really great one, because for me, I don't see spirit everywhere. It's when I set the intention to go into that I do. I'm unaware of these invisible people around me, although I'm probably super crowded.
Right.
And sometimes I am, and I'm not aware of it. And I like what Ellen said, like, it's not that I've necessarily, although there are some things I could have blocked. Block is not my favorite word.
Yeah.
But I don't always feel them or see them because it's very familiar, but also, I don't notice them like walking down the street. I didn't notice the little girl on the porch until I set my intention to be like, I wonder if she's still there. And there she was, I was
right.
like, okay, easy, showed up. The other thing is like when I'm walking in a graveyard, I'm not bombarded at all. And for a couple of reasons. Like, one, spirits with their family, they're not necessarily there in the graveyard. I'm not saying there aren't some. I don't know the answer to that. However, I'm not bombarded there.
Yeah, for real, me either. And it's really funny that kind of leads into another misconception, and that's one that I have run into quite a bit, both as a medium, and then I used to be a tour guide in Charleston, South Carolina, many moons ago, and I used to tell ghost stories in graveyards at night. And of course, one of the common things was the idea of the haunted graveyard, and I think for myself, at least personally, I've always assumed that was the reason why I didn't run into spirit so often in graveyards, is because very rarely is spirit actually hanging out there unless their family's there to visit with them. And they came in with their family to be there and visit with them. It's not like they're hanging out there.
Yeah.
Which I always find really interesting.
Me too. Okay, I'm going to look at your list, see what else we've got here. I think this is a great topic, and we've talked about it a little bit before, and I think it's still a great one to bring up, is how soon someone can communicate after they pass away, and when do they stop?
Yeah, I think that's did you want to jump in with that one, or?
Well, I'd be glad to. I don't have to, and I'd be glad to, but I feel like that communication is always there.
Yes. Yeah. I
It's a
think
choice on either side.
absolutely. And I think that was one of the misconceptions that I had because, I've worked with several people over the years, teachers and mentors that, it's been their experience. I don't think they were giving me bad information, but their experience has
Right.
been that, once somebody transitions into spirit, that they need a certain amount of time to get comfortable and get familiar with the mechanics. And I think I've even said that to others myself. That it was my understanding that that was part of the process, but I've recently become aware of the fact that that's not exactly true. It is. It depends. It depends on the individual spirit.
I agree. I agree completely. And I like what you said. Like, it was not bad information.
Right.
The medium that is giving you the information, it's their experience. So it's not that I'm wrong, it's what I've experienced. You know what I mean? Like, and please, please experience more and share. So I feel like the communication is always there. And I think it's okay to set that boundary if that's the choice of a medium, because some do set it like, come wait a year.
Right.
Wait a year, heal the bigger, the pieces that are sitting on you right now, and then connect. And that is not a boundary I set. I'll be honest.
Yeah,
But
me either.
I think it's a great, that's great for people who want that. And I can get that because I have run into very close to a passing of a child, and it did not go well.
Yeah.
The reading went fine, but the information was not received. So,
Yeah.
as why they may set that boundary,
hmm
it may not be the time to receive the peace coming from spirit yet.
Absolutely. And I think that that kind of brings us into another very common myth, and that is, when a client, or I'll refer to them as a sitter, comes in to have a reading and they come in with the expectation that they want to hear from one particular person, if that person doesn't come through during the reading, that it's the fault of the medium. And that's not the case. And I know I've run into people that came in and come in with all sorts of like um, booby traps set for me. That there's a password that they've agreed upon with the spirit that's passed to be able to see if I'm legit. But one of the things that I have experienced over and over and over again is that when it comes to any kind of energy work, and mediumship is no different, it is about healing. And so spirit is going to give you what you need. You may not get what you want, but you'll always get what you need.
I always tell people, like, they know what you want. They also know what you need. So just know they're going to tell you what they need. I love this because this does happen. There are a couple, I would love to share just a few
Oh
things that
yeah, yeah,
happened to me with
absolutely.
this, because there are a few things that go hand in hand with this. One, when you sit with a medium, and this is probably another misconception in a way, but when you sit with a medium, you have this expectation that mom is coming through. There's no way anybody else is going to come through first. So I'm waiting for that information. I'm not even hearing the rest.
Right.
So you've got to be able to open that door and be like, okay, let me assess this information she's giving me. I've had booby traps set where every person in the room had a password in their pocket. And like, okay.
Are you talking about
I
like
was like,
on like a
okay,
piece of paper, or just like
in their
metaphorically?
pocket, and didn't tell me until the end.
Oh my gosh, that's awful.
And I had it was a group of 6. Okay. So they expected this word. And when I would hit the word, they'd cry and pull it out of their pocket. And I was like, okay, well, one, that's freaking cool. And two, I don't recommend that, because it doesn't
Yeah.
always, that word is not always going to come through, but if you've got, it's not that they're there. Sometimes when they say, hey, I want to ask you about my mom, and then immediately I'm like, okay, I don't see her, because I'll use my clairvoyant to connect often. Like,
Right.
immediate, that's where I connect first. But when they're like, well, what about, I'm like, well, let me check. I never assume it's who it is. I always bring through the evidence, and they'll tell me yay or nay, but I can connect and feel them. But they keep their personalities. So, Uncle Joe, that's loud as Jessica, is going to come through first, and then
Right.
Molly's going to come in next, right?
Right,
So
right.
you kind of sit back, and I'm like, open the door and everybody knows you're there. So your spirit also, they keep their personality. Were they patient and they waited their turn? Do they feel like they love you and you need to hear from these other people? And also, what's going on in your life to why
Right.
this person came forward?
Absolutely.
Also, one more thing, and sorry to keep going on
Oh,
this,
no,
but
no,
the other
no.
thing is maybe that spirit doesn't like me. They don't jive with my energy. Our energies
Right.
don't match. It's not that they don't like me, but maybe our energies are like, "Whoop, nope,
Right.
this girl ain't seeing me." So that's how our energies mesh as well.
Absolutely. Well, I think too, anytime, if you are going to get a mediumship reading, walking in with any kind of rules, or I guess rules is probably the right word, that, I want to hear only from this person. There has to be a buzzword, and there's got to, there's all of these like criteria that the medium needs to meet. Anytime you walk in the door with that kind of energy engaged, it really sets the tone for the entire reading, because you walk in there and you're already blocked, because nothing's getting in unless it meets those specific criteria. So, any valuable information that might be coming through, if it doesn't hit your bells, your list of things that you expect it to, you may be missing out on some really beautiful mess and healing messages. And, how many times have you run into, if you haven't had it happen personally, you've run into another medium that's had a client sit in, and they bring through a shirt tail relative or something. They're like, oh yeah, I don't want to hear from him. And
Not
again,
who I'm here to see.
right, it's not who I'm here to see. I don't want to hear from that person. And again, this person, it's like Jessica was saying, it's very much about the energies, the coming together of the energies of the spirit, of you, of the medium, the time and place, what you need. It's really going to influence the information that you get, as well as how open you are to receiving that information, if all that makes sense.
I agree completely. Sometimes too, they'll focus in, like people will focus in on just one piece of evidence because it doesn't make sense. And they
Yep.
feel like, well, since her hair, what you said, red hair, that can't be her.
Right.
But I've given you 10 other pieces that say
Right.
it is Aunt Susie, whoever it is.
Right.
And why is it? I'm setting this intention, guides. Let me set it live, right? I'm gonna get hair color right. I get hair color correct. They give me the hair color that they have. And I'm sure the people I work with are cracking up, because I'm like, okay, throw out the hair color. Just let's move on. Like,
and it's, they speak in symbols. So, they may show themselves with red hair, but it may be a symbolic showing of red hair instead of literal. One of the things that started to happen to me, because I used to see, and still see spirit very clearly, but their eye color started to change. And I was starting to see spirit with these just crystal clear, almost glowing blue eyes. And I would describe the person down to a T, but the blue eyes would be wrong. I'd be like, oh my God, you got everything. But he didn't have blue eyes. And so it would always throw the reading. And I was able to find out, through a bunch of trial and error, that it was a symbolic thing, that it started to symbolize spirits that had really transitioned. And yeah, it was beautiful. It threw me off for such a long time. Yeah, it was amazing. But yeah, it really is one of those things that, if the medium says one wrong, if you've got 10 right things and one wrong thing, look at the 10 right, because that one wrong thing could again be symbolism, or just and they piggyback too.
Yeah.
So that red hair could be coming in, and it's such a strange, again, it's about the energy. So let's say that I'm reading a spirit, and this spirit is, roughly in her 40s, and she's about 5'6", and she's got glasses. And maybe that glasses is a link to another spirit that's going to come in and also looks similar. Maybe they were sisters and has glasses, but I'm seeing the sister's red hair, not the original spirit's red hair. So that can also be a reason why I've run into why things start to get a little muddy.
Well, this is something that I've really decided to work on, is the piggybacking and being clear to know myself when they're piggybacking, because I'll have that information sometimes meshed, and I feel like it happens to a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
It
that they do.
definitely
Okay, well,
does.
let me ask them to split. Hold on, ladies, can we split?
Yeah. It's like you hit on a certain point, like the glasses, and the spirit's like, oh yeah, me too. It's like a doorway in. They're like, oh yeah, I have glasses too, so I'm gonna come in and yeah.
Yeah. I'm looking at this.
At
Okay.
our list.
Yeah, I'm looking at this list. And I feel like I want to ask about, let's talk about tools. Like, do you need special types of tools to read? And do you need something from the sitter to read?
Right. That's it's a really great question. It really opens the door into a lot of different parts of a reading, because one of the things, if you go online and you Google, what do I need to do to prepare to have a psychic or mediumship reading, they'll often tell you, again, the buzzword. Don't do that. They'll tell you to have a buzzword. They'll tell you to not give the medium or the psychic any information, that they should be able to give you, everything. And that's not true. There's a couple of reasons why you want to give, whoever is doing a reading for you information. And I know I work off of sound, and it doesn't have to be a lot, but a name and a birth date, great. I just something about the sound of that person's voice giving me that information. I don't necessarily need to hold things, but I know people that work really, really well holding an object that belonged either to the person that they're reading for, or belong to the spirit that they're wanting to try and reach.
Yeah. So yes, I don't have to use tools, but I like to.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I'm doing art and painting or doing chakragraphs, like people love to walk away with something. And I love
Sure.
doing those at like festivals, and when I do readings at Red Tree, like those are such great tools. I love looking at cards. It gives you some really interesting information that maybe I wouldn't have gotten an image of in my head. And in crystal ball, like all of these tools are great, but I don't have to have them to read. I don't feel like anyone has to have them to read, but it might trigger a memory, or it might trigger something in your vocabulary that helps you to get into what the other person might need to hear. So I think that they are fantastic tools. Also on the part of like, do I need to hold something? Like, even like, if anything, quarantine has taught us, y'all. You do not have to be holding a hand, holding an item, using an item. I can do readings straight through this computer because I'm setting that intention to connect with your energy. Ooh, they lit my chest on fire right now. Like, yes, queen, right?
Yeah.
But we don't have to have those tools, but they're fun. And if you want to use them, I love doing practice readings with like flowers, or flame messages is fun. Oh, yes. Let me get my crystal ball out and read the crystal ball. Yes, but I don't have to have that. And again, I don't have to hold your hand. Although sometimes people prefer that, and that is also absolutely okay. When
Absolutely.
people ask me, and I do get that question a lot, like, do I need to bring anything? I'm like, no, but if you want to, you just don't have to give it to me.
Right.
And if it comes up, they'll pull it out and they'll show it to me, or they've worn it and I had no idea. Like, I prefer not to know. Let it come up naturally. And sometimes they might have worn this necklace, and the spirit will just start pointing, and I'll be like, they're pointing to your necklace. You would be the one that understands why.
Yeah.
So they may not tell me what it is about the necklace. Sometimes I do, but I will tell them they're pointing to this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So on that note, certified mediums, non-certified.
So, one of the things that I think is really important to understand about mediums that have certification, there is no, there is no oversight. There is no governing board that can, that is in charge of certifying mediums. If you come across a medium with a certificate, it means that they have completed some coursework somewhere, and that that they've received a certificate as part as part of their completion for that.
And I don't have a board certified medium, but I've taken courses here, New York, the UK. So I know that I've learned the things I need to learn, and I'm constantly seeking more.
Right.
And I've been calling that in a lot lately. Like, okay, let's bump this up. Like, do this. So I feel it's a constant learning, and you have to make that choice.
Yeah.
You have to make that choice, and good for you if even I do spiritual coaching, but it's not a certificate. It's what I've learned intuitively and through these courses that I've taken and continue to take. So, yeah.
I think it's those two things tie in really well together, the tools as well as the certification. There's some, I've run into some people that expect mediums to look a certain way. If they're not dressed like with the big scarf and the hoop earrings and the crystal ball,
but for real, I want to dress like that.
I know, I do too.
So
I love it.
We need some help. Please send us costumes instead of love donations. Ask us personally our sizes, but if you want to add to our gypsy look, I'm digging that. Okay, sorry, I interrupted. I couldn't help myself.
That is all right. But I mean, mediums are average everyday people. They exist in all parts of the world. They live in cities and the country. So walking in with expectations about what they're going to be dressed like, how their space should look, again, is just a barrier between you and the medium that you're bringing in the door with you. But that and the certifications, it really comes down to if you feel a connection with this person, if you've gotten recommendations from people that that have seen that medium, if you like their vibe, if you've seen some of their content and it really resonates with you, those are good ways to wink wink nudge nudge. Yeah.
I'm like, Google,
right.
YouTube, Yelp. Y'all hit it up. which made me giggle because we've been watching this show. I don't know if you all have watched this. This is not a myth or misconception. I mean, maybe. But the OA on Netflix.
Yeah.
If you have not seen this, go watch it, y'all. So, but they pull in the medium who's got this deluxe package. And also there's something else about, the mirror, like the mirror, but it just made me think of that as you were talking about it, just those things and how things need to look or feel in that atmosphere. So, yeah.
Yep. It's been a while since I've seen it, but that is fabulous.
Yes. It did make me laugh, and I appreciated it. But let's talk about, and we have some questions, it looks like, and those of you who are jumping in, feel free to ask questions and we'll get to as many of those as possible. But let's talk about, because this kind of goes in with certified, non-certified, who can be a medium. In my opinion, I feel like anybody could, they just have to choose to open that door.
Right. And I have seen people on both sides of that fence. I've seen people that, and this is true for empaths as well. I have seen people that come down very hard on the line of, you can't become these things. You either are or are not these things. And then I've seen people very firmly in the other camp, which is, this is something that exists within everybody. Like you said, if they choose to open that door, my experience has shown me that, I'm more in the, everybody's got the potential camp. That's more where I land. I mean, and who knows at the end of the day.
Right. And I think that comes down to, I mean, maybe that comes down to like how it happens to us. Like mine, they were like, and now this is the time.
Right.
And maybe that doesn't happen to everyone where it's like, boom, you're given it.
Right.
You don't have a
Right.
choice.
Yeah.
And I am giving you my experience. And some people freak out so much about it that they shut it down and don't want to, like, I can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you feel that and you believe that, then there's your answer.
Yeah.
Because
Absolutely.
but I feel like there's potential for sure. And even if you aren't going to do it for work, even if you're utilizing it in your life,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm one of those people that in the realm of energy, I've never seen an instance where somebody, um, you know, how do I want to phrase this? You know, if you are drawn to this work, it's for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
If you wind up in it, if you feel really called to go to a class, if you feel very called to pick up a book, there's a reason for that. And that's likely whatever that is inside you, whether it's a door that is opening or a door that's always been open, you're just not aware of it. Something inside you is calling to you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's such a strange thing for me, for anybody to come down, in with definites regarding this work, because really at the end of the day, like I said, we can only really speak to our experience.
Right. Okay, sorry, I was looking at questions. Thanks
That's
for
all right.
letting me look away while you finish that. So let me start with I don't have all the names, and my apologies. It's sometimes does not allow me to see certain comments after certain times. So I'm going to take a look here, and I've got a comment that says, "This is such a good subject. I don't share much about what I am outside this community, but I finally told someone, and her immediate response was I was practicing witchcraft stuff. I need to get back with Jesus and ask for his advice, but I was proud of how I responded. Um, Congratulations for really coming into your truth and speaking it and allowing that to just bounce off, because I have had people tell me that too. And then if you've heard me talk before, I've talked about my first shamanism class experience where I was like, I just walked with Jesus. Like, so uh, congratulations for letting that roll off. And Molly, if you have anything you want to add in there.
It's such a big subject. It's something that I've run into, in various ways over the last several years, since I've been more public about my gifts and abilities. And I find it's one of those things that and anytime that I run into somebody that believes that this innate gift and this innate, wanting to, help and heal, is something derived of negativity or evil, or the devil. It's just never computed to me. It's just like it's just something that has always baffled me. Definitely congratulate whoever commented about that for having the grace and strength to let that roll off, because that's really all we can do.
Yeah.
Not everybody has this kind of awareness in their lives, and so it's a very, very foreign thing to a lot of people. They don't understand. They have no context for understanding, and so it scares them. And of course,
Yeah.
anything that when fear is involved, it drives people into a lot of weird places, including throwing Jesus and church and the Bible at folk.
And I will say, it does, when people sit with me, and I've said this before, when they sit with me and I talk my terms, I tell them, change that to your terms, whatever that is for you, for your religion, your spirituality, your whatever it is. I respect those. So, and I know Molly she's nodding, but I know that she does too. So with
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
said, but the witchy magic stuff I do love. So y'all
Yeah.
know. Okay.
I do too. But like you said, we still have, that door to work with Jesus of Nazareth as a master teacher is always there,
Yeah.
you
Oh,
know, or
okay.
Mother
So
Mary, or
yes,
yeah.
last week on the full moon, I did my ritual before the full moon, right? And I don't
Hmm.
think I mentioned when we did the ceremony, but Jesus came and he held me and he just let me cry. Like, you guys, it made me cry because
Yeah.
I was releasing so much anyway. And he wasn't there to do the work with me at that time, but he was like, he held me, I cried, and then on with the process. But they are there.
They're absolutely
Whoever you
there.
want to call.
Yep.
Jill's ready to help us with costumes. Thank you, Jill. Got our
Yay!
theater set designer, props designer, costume designer, all in one.
Perfect.
And then Heather asks, how did you know when you were able to connect?
Oh goodness. It was such a long process. It really was. I've been able to connect since, when I'm starting, looking back over my life, the earliest memories I have were around the age of 4 or 5. However, I didn't have any point of reference to help me understand that what I was experiencing was unusual. So, I say this a lot. You've probably heard me say this before, but I thought, the human brain just worked in such a way that everybody saw people that they'd never seen before pop into their heads for no reason in crystal clear detail. It wasn't until I was almost 40 years old till I began to understand that, hey, this is a thing. And not only am I seeing people, but there's actually information there about these people that's coming in as well. So it was a long process. And I think that's, unless it's something really dramatic and often almost alarming, I think a lot of people that have gifts their entire life don't understand, because it becomes part of the way that you interact with the world around you.
Mm-hmm.
It literally is a sixth sense. It's like having a third arm. Well, if you've had a third arm your entire life and have no reason to think that it's not, that it's unusual, you're not going to know any different.
Yeah, and for me, it was, and some of you have heard this, but I was taking a shower and got a message that I heard very clearly, but it came in my inner voice. So it was like a thought in my mind, hey, Jessica, tell your mom I love her and I'm sorry I wasn't there for her. So mine happened. And that was all, when that happened, I knew what had happened. And that's when I became aware that I could connect. And then as I looked at it, and I remember it that whole day, I remember being at lunch going, oh my gosh, I've been doing this my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
just didn't know it. Like, how many times have I talked to myself like that? And being able to remember, like, putting the sheets over my head as a kid, like, I don't want to see. I felt something. I felt a ghost, right? I felt a ghost. It's not what I would call it now. I call it spirit, but
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't want to see, but I
Yep.
didn't know they were there. I was just afraid they were there because that's what I could feel.
Yeah, it's so funny. I'm laughing
Yeah.
because I think about all the times growing up as a kid when I was really feeling things in a room and I was terrified, and my parents are like, "Oh, that's just in your imagination." And I'm like, "Man, now I know it wasn't in my imagination. It was real."
Oh,
I feel
Molly, I
vindicated.
remember this. Yes, I remember this time at my grandparents' house. My cousin Jason and I used to stay there all the time. And Jason was going to bed in one room, and I was going to bed in my grandparents' room. And I remember like screaming upset, and I didn't want to go in there alone. And she
Hmm.
spanked my bottom, like, and not hard, but I remember being
Right.
so upset about this. And she was like, "No, girl, you're going." They must have needed to drink.
Yeah, I have similar memories. I remember once when we were living in Norway. I was 15, and laying in bed. And I mean, I could see the outline of this man standing over my bed. And
Oot.
like, I was terrified and I was screaming for my mom. And of course, my mom had just had it. She'd been dealing with a 15-year-old all day and then that. So, yeah. But
Oh.
many moments like those.
I think we might need to do an interview about talking with kids. I think we should do that.
Yeah, that's
because
actually a great
it's
idea.
coming up in my world, and
Mhm.
people are also asking me. I've got 2 people I know that we work together, and they're coming up with that, and I'm now experiencing that. I mean, I must have looked crooked when the kids said it to me. I was like, "You see my lights flickering?" They're like,
Yeah.
"Yes, yes, you all saw that, right?"
I
I know
did.
I did. So they were like, "I'm seeing people," and the other was like, "I'm hearing," and I was like, "What do I
Mhm.
tell people to do? Like,
Mhm.
can somebody remind me?" And I was like, "You call in your guardian angel. We don't have one." I'm like, "Yes, you do. You call in." So I think that'd be a good topic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um,
It would be awesome.
Speaking of our experiences as children. Okay, so Jimena has said, I've heard or read something that using a specific gem or drinking or smelling an herb may help increase our psychic abilities. Would you say this is true for you? Have you used something that has helped you? And what would you recommend? Those are
Uh,
great questions, Jimena.
yeah, those are really, really great questions. And I think this is another one of those things that, is going to vary a little bit depending on everybody's energy and what it connects with. 2 of the things that have worked quite a bit for me, selenite is a crystal, a mineral that I've worked with a lot. That has helped me, as well as clear quartz. I will say though, there are times when, I've been open enough and then brought in a piece of selenite. It's almost like turned me into overdrive to the point that, I wasn't grounded enough to be able to do the work that I needed to do. So but those are 2 things that have worked really well. Moonstone has worked. And I work actually a lot with grounding crystals as well that have helped to kind of root me, that have really made a difference. Black tourmaline, tiger's eye, hematite, have worked as well.
I
Amethyst. Sorry.
Amethyst, yes. Well, I keep a lot of crystals around, and Jimena has seen that they line my room, and
Hmm.
I have my crystal grid. I don't have to hold one, but on days that I don't feel as maybe energized might be the right way to say that, or feel like I'm a little off, I will hold my selenite.
Hmm.
You know, because there are things that amplify, and even like you said, the clear quartz, it amplifies the other stone.
Right.
So if you feel like you need it to lift your energy, then absolutely. And you might be drawn to different stones and not even realize why until you look at the properties. It may be for something totally different, but there are things that are said to enhance, and they may enhance, but it's not going to be like I'm here and now I'm here. It's going to be like that subtle enough to just lift your energy, but they aren't things that you have to have.
Right.
I don't feel like, but some are very useful. See what works for you is what I would say. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay. This is the second part of this question, and then Jill has a comment as well. Jimenez said, how do you use them? Do you put them next to you? Sometimes next to me, sometimes I'm holding them.
Yeah, I've had
Would
them
you
next
agree?
to me.
Or where?
I've put them under my chair. Oftentimes though, I will hold them right in the heart of my palm.
Mhm.
And This is interesting. I've heard different people talk about, what hands to hold your crystals in to help them work more. Some say that, gaining energy is going to be coming through your left hand versus
Mhm.
sending energy with your right hand. I work the opposite. So I feel things a lot more strongly in my right hand, and it varies sometime from crystal to crystal. So it's something to play with I think.
And also wearing them. And Jimena, you wear a lot of her daughter's been making jewelry with crystals, and it's beautiful. So you're wearing it, which is helpful. Okay. Somebody said smoky. Oh, okay. Amy said smoky quartz and sphalerite. I don't know if I pronounced that right. Are my favorite grounding crystals or grounding stones, and celestite is my favorite one to connect with spirit. Everyone connects so differently. Thank you for that comment. And Jill said, how did your family friend respond to when you finally told them that you have these abilities and that you do this kind of work?
It was I'll say mixed. I will say that it was kind of a mixed thing. I think for some family members, it was kind of it was like, oh, that explains it, kind of thing. Oh, that makes sense now. I think my parents were very supportive, and I think especially friends that I had a long time, that I hadn't. I've always been a person that's kind of held their cards close to their chest. So, there were friends of mine that, might have been more vocal about, how connected to spirit they were. And so I didn't say as much. So when I, came out as far as my abilities and my mediumship, they were a little, like, huh. You know what I mean? They weren't as I don't want to say not supportive, but were just a little, I don't know, less excited than I hoped they would be. Maybe is a way to say that, if that makes sense.
And I feel like I became comfortable with it myself before I expressed it. Like that was something, and some people were okay with it, and some I kept it a little bit closer because I felt they may be more judgmental on it. So go with your comfort on speaking about it, and if you feel called, spirit's helping you.
Absolutely. I will say, I mean, I have my what I refer to as my Clark Kent job, my day job. And there is one person. I've worked for the same company for 6 years now, and there's one person that knows what I do outside of my regular work. So it is you gotta decide what makes the most sense. Just like Jess said, you gotta decide what makes the most sense for you. But I will say that the more open I have been, I feel like it's helped my abilities expand.
Yeah.
But I think it's about stepping into your truth. I really think that's what that is about. Is about being fully in your power and your truth.
Well, those are all our questions and comments for tonight, which is perfect. What a great time. If anyone has any other question or comment, please we'll wait a minute here and just let you catch up. Let us know if you have any questions. But I loved this topic tonight. This was fun to kind of chat about the different experiences we've had. Let me just say, so Saturday, I usually do readings at 9, and this week you have a real treat. Christopher Paul Hancock, he's been on. He's doing his Ascension talk tomorrow. He will be taking my place Saturday this week for readings. So you all are in for a real treat. So pop on 9 o'clock. Kat will be on at 8 before that with live music. So get your meal, get your drink, come watch Kat and her music, and then get a reading with Chris.
And
Sunday.
Yep, I was just going to say.
We have the Sunday morning reset. Molly Younger is still doing that, but Sunday night, Molly, we're talking shadow work, right? Not me, you. I said we as a group of Soulfire.
Well, and I will say I did realize that I double booked myself, so I may have to shift that date. But it will be coming up. If not this Sunday, I will be moving it to the following Sunday. But it is coming up soon. We are going to be talking about meeting the shadow and working with your shadow, which is one of my favorite things.
I know, and you're so great at talking about that. We won't say why. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm kidding. All of your experiences and discovering yourself. But I'm excited about that. So So lots of events coming. We've got some great interviews coming up. Next Wednesday, Gina Millard will be live with us. But Dave Vickers is coming back. Mary Kaswani is coming on to talk about astrology. So invite your friends that are going to want to hear about this stuff. Just send them an invite to Soulfire. We love to be here. This has been a blast. And let's see, we've got a couple more comments here.
Awesome.
Jill said, thank you. I love these Wednesday night talks. Me too. Me too. Can we talk about this bad hair day though now? Can we talk about
I actually did my hair today.
It's so good.
Okay, it didn't until an hour ago. So
and Treva said, thank you. You ladies are beautiful always. Thank you for sharing. I only caught the last 5 minutes. Oh, Treva, go back and watch. I always try to entertain. That's my job in this world, is entertainment. No, so go back and watch, but we're so glad that you joined, and thank you for that.
And actually, that's a really good point. If you ever miss something on Soulfire, you can go back into the page and go into the videos. All of the content that is presented on Soulfire is archived. So you can always go back in and watch something you missed, rewatch something. If there was a meditation or a breath work piece that you really love doing, it's right there for you to continue enjoying. So definitely go back and check those archives. And it also reminds me, one last little piece is that if you want to share something with the Soulfire community, remember, anybody can go live on Soulfire at any time, as long as there's not somebody else live, and as long as it's not between the hours of 7 and 10. You can go live at any point, talk about anything that you want to. This is about community. It's about us getting to know you, what you do, supporting you especially through this quarantine time. And then if you would like to schedule an event, you can always put something on the calendar. It doesn't, whatever it is that you want to talk about, teach, share, we're happy to have you share your gifts, your magic, your wisdom with us at any point. So that opportunity is always there for you.
Yes, and I just remembered that I talked to a manifestation coach that's going to go live soon. So we're getting that together. We don't know when yet. So we've got some fun stuff. It's really been exciting. You know what? Where are our yoga teachers?
Yeah.
Bring it on, yoga. We'll bring in some yoga.
That would be awesome.
Some meditation. We want you all here so much. And you'll be able to put up your love donation link. Allow people to love you.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us tonight. So grateful for you all, and so grateful for Molly.
Oh, I'm so grateful for you too. We make such a good team. We've had so much fun doing this work with you, Jess. This has been great.
Same here.
So, thank you, everybody, for being here.
Have a good night.
Love you guys.